Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I am so excited to be with you here today because we're going to go into a topic that I bet you just don't talk about so often. And I think that if we do, or at least highlight it, it will change your life. You're going to see what's holding you back that you didn't know was holding you back. I'm talking about values, but I'm talking specifically about something I call hidden values. What's this going to do? It's going to uncover that secret thing that's been tethering you to either your past or old beliefs or limiting beliefs or someone else's beliefs. It's your hidden values. Okay, most of you know that I am so into making sure that you are consciously aware of your values and then reassessing them on the regular. So that could be in 6 months, that could be in a year. But all my clients, I have them go through their values again once a year, and I do it for myself at least once a year. Why? Because things happen in my life, things change, and I grow, I change. So if I don't know what my values are currently and what I'm going toward, then I can be really misguided in the choices I make, in how I'm living my life, my own actions, my own behaviors. So here we go. So what if the values that you're consciously pursuing, so the ones like peace or fulfillment, or maybe you have a family value or a legacy value, what if those ones that you're consciously pursuing aren't the ones that are actually running the show? What if your hidden values are actually dictating so much of what you're doing and shaping your reality, shaping your future way more than you even realize? Think of your values as being like your compass. And we use this analogy a lot when we're making our empowered blueprint, our plan for the year. So think of your values as being a hidden compass. And when you have this compass, but consider that if you're using your values as a compass, that there is this hidden magnet, and the magnet is pulling the needle in a different direction than where you want to go. It keeps pulling you off course, pulling you away from where you keep pointing. You think you want to go here, but it's pulling you somewhere else. It's that hidden magnet. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to highlight what it looks like to have these hidden values that you may not even be aware of, and explain the conflicts that it happens to cause so that you become more aware of your life and you can be more in control, more purposeful, and more conscious. And not get in the way of what you really want. Let's add that in. So the first part, step one, we're going to define what hidden values are. Now I've done some of that already, but think of it as this subconscious value that's driving behavior. And so when your behavior, one of the easiest ways of seeing this is when your behavior isn't matching what you want to have happen. So this is where these subconscious values would be one that people would not recognize. You often don't see them, or you don't want to admit to them. They're not necessarily bad. There's nothing wrong with them. They would likely be there because of past experiences, family values, and in your upbringing. They would be there that you may not realize that they're running the show as much as they are. So they're not necessarily bad. It's just something that might be in a little bit of resistance or conflict with something that you want, or a value that is in your future, a value in the direction that you want to go. So examples of hidden values are things like this. When someone really wants a lot of certainty or control, control can be a hidden value that people might joke, oh yeah, I'm a control freak, or things like that, but they may not realize that that nature, that value of control is showing up at times when they're trying to be a little more adventurous or free. So someone who is craving security or predictability to such an extent that this could be preventing from peace or freedom or adventure or growth, from embracing those types of values when they may say they want those types of values. Another example of a hidden value would be sadness or suffering. And I have experienced this, where I am someone who's very committed to living my best life, to showing up as my best, and committed to living a fulfilled and happy and joyous life, really having that sparked spirit and having this radiant joy in my life. Those are some of my top values right there. Sparked spirit and radiant joy. Except if I have a hidden value of sadness or suffering that is still creeping in from perhaps experience of my past, then I'm unconsciously seeking suffering because it validates this value of suffering or sadness. Now, for me, the way that I've been doing this in the recent past is from, I would have this attitude or belief system of, if I just try harder, if I just work more, if I just try a little harder, this will work out. If I can persevere. Well, I have no lack of perseverance. I do not need to put perseverance or hard work into my top values in any form or another. However, I still know that it's one of my strengths. And so it sneaks in that thought system, that belief system, and it perpetuates an old value of sadness or suffering that might have been in my past from traumatic events or experiences in my childhood. So unknowingly, by putting this, I just want to try harder, I'm actually perpetuating suffering because I wouldn't quite know when to stop. I wouldn't quite know when enough work was enough, or enough trying was enough, or enough perseverance was enough. And so what that was causing was this hidden value of suffering to emerge and hold me back from radiant joy or being a spark spirit, which is truly my nature, but it was being compromised. It was that magnet pulling away from where my compass really wanted to go, or where I have set my compass to go. So those are examples of hidden values. Conflict is another example of a hidden value. We may not realize that we're valuing something like conflict, and the way that we often do this, and I see this show up in clients because so many of my clients are smart humans. They are smarty pants. They are good at certain things. They've got high levels of skill, and they are intelligent people. And what happens sometimes when you want to value your knowledge and value your skill sets, there can be a value that comes in there of wanting to be right, or really wanting other people to respect how much you've learned or how much you've researched or how much you know. So we might end up valuing something like self-righteousness, and then it unintentionally creates a value of conflict because we're looking to prove that we're right, or we're looking to seek that conflict so that we can then assure ourselves that we have overcome another person or overcome their opinions by going through that conflict. So it's a very subtle underlying thing, and I don't think I know a single person who would say, yes, I value conflict. None of us do that, but yet it can be this underlying conflict that's hidden because we really want to be right, or we want to be respected, or we want someone to acknowledge something that they're not. So we may consciously be valuing harmony, be valuing peace, be valuing love and connection, and yet this hidden value of conflict comes up. Why? Because there's something that we're missing, something that we're probably craving from other people, but we can actually fulfill it ourselves and give it to ourselves. So those are examples. That's what hidden values are, and those are some really profound examples of hidden values. So the next thing I want to touch on is the impact of hidden values on our life experiences. And this is the wild stuff. This is the moment where we become confused as to, well, I know I want this. Why did I do that? I know that this feels so much better. Why is this happening? That's what happens. And the key phrase that many people will go with is self-sabotage. Why I tend to self-sabotage in these kind of scenarios. So the hidden impact, or the impact of hidden values, is that it creates self-sabotaging patterns. It creates behaviors that are not going in the direction that we say we want to go. It also pulls back from our integrity. It creates environments where we are falling out of integrity with ourselves and falling out of integrity with other people. Now, let's say, for instance, someone who values love and connection, and they're in an amazing relationship and they love this person and they connect with this person, and then they find themselves undermining the relationship or doing things that aren't working. And what's happening there is they are unconsciously having a hidden value of control or independence, and they find that then they are conflicting. There's a values conflict with their love and connection. So this is where then this self-sabotaging behavior comes in, and you'll wonder why you're doing this when you love this person so much. And this is where a hidden value comes in. All right, so let's look at number 3. What we want to do here is we want to recognize a thing I call values conflict. So you might have heard me when I talk about values, or if you've gone through my values creation course, you'll hear me talk about a values disruption. That's when a big life event happens and suddenly your values are not the same as what they were before because of this life event. Some easy examples of that would be graduating high school or graduating university, getting married, having a child, job changes. All of those values disruptions, those life events create a values disruption. Often we just don't realize it happened until we're into our new life and we realize, oh, I don't want to hang out with my friends as much as I used to because I have a baby. Or, oh, I'm not interested in staying up as late because I have this new career that I absolutely love and I'm up early in the morning. So those values disruptions come along, and if we're not very aware of our own values, then what happens is there's a values conflict. Where before we valued a nightlife or a freedom of lifestyle, let's say that was a top value, freedom of lifestyle, then there's a value of career or career progress. And freedom of lifestyle and career progress are in conflict. That is a values conflict where 2 or more values are pulling in opposite direction. They are in direct conflict with each other. So another example would be, I might want peace, but I also want control. These values can be in conflict. My husband at one point had his values and they were back to back with each other. One was accountability and one was freedom. Those 2 values are in direct conflict with each other. I would call that a values conflict. And so that is where, if we can recognize where we have values conflicts, that can be key in order to overcome or identify any hidden values that are holding us back. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So number 1, we defined what is a hidden value. This is a subconscious driving behavior that we may not recognize or admit to, and it's pulling our behavior in a direction that we don't want. And number 2, there's this hidden impact of these hidden values with self-sabotaging patterns. That's what's happening because of the hidden values. The impact is self-sabotaging behaviors. And then ultimately, we want to understand and recognize the impact of these values conflicts, because anytime we feel that friction or that conflict, chances are there's a hidden value that's pushing up against another value that we really want. So how do I identify them? The first thing and the easiest thing to do is look at your own behaviors. When you see a behavior that is not what you want to do, you literally feel like you are going against yourself. You feel like you are doing something against your own will. That, and then you look at your behaviors, you're like, I wish I hadn't done that. I don't want to do that. That is the highlight. That's the highlighter, the spotlight. That's going to show you where those hidden values are. So what actions, this is the question you can ask yourself, what actions do I keep taking even if they don't serve my values that I want to go toward? What actions am I continuing to take even if they don't serve where I want to go, the direction I want to go? So notice also a pattern of conflict, a pattern of struggle. Anywhere you are suffering or struggling or having conflict, there's likely a hidden value in there that is running the show that's not going to go well. It might be self-righteousness. It might be conflict. It might be sadness. It might be any number of behaviors, fear behaviors. So the question you can ask yourself here is, where do I feel stuck? So that's where you can then discover what hidden value might be driving that stuckness. It might be behind feeling stuck or being stuck in action or certain behaviors. The next thing we can do to identify hidden values is to reflect on moments where you've been really emotionally intense. So reflect on moments where you have had intense anger, fear, sadness. Any of those things are signaling that there's something underlying that's very different from the person you want to be in the world or the values that you're holding. So reflect on moments of intentional intensity. So I'm going to say those three things again. These are how to identify hidden values. Number one, look at your behaviors, not just your intentions. See those behaviors, not just the value you want to go toward, but what are you actually doing in life? What are your actions? Number two, notice patterns of conflict or struggle. Anywhere you're finding that suffering, there's probably somewhere that you're stuck and there's a hidden value behind that. And number three, reflect on moments of emotional intensity, that intense anger or deep lows or any massive fears that you have. Those are often a signal. They're the flashing light pointing to a hidden value. Okay, so this is where now you probably, after you've listened to all this, you probably are like, oh my gosh, there it is. It's conflict, or it's self-righteousness, or it's control, whatever it is that's running the show so much more than I want it to. Now that you see it, I don't want you to just get rid of it. If you have an attitude of just getting rid of it, it's probably going to push against you even more because you're pushing against it to push it away. Just notice it. Just see what's there. I promise you that if that value has been running the show underneath the surface, it showed up for a reason. There's a reason that it came into your life probably a long time ago and it supported you in some way. That's why it persists. It was just a pattern, just a way of being that happened to work at some point in your life that maybe just doesn't work so much anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. So just notice it initially. And then you can start to ask yourself, once you're allowing it to be there, you're noticing it, you can start to ask yourself, well, what do I value more in practice, meaning your actions and your behaviors, than I claim to value? So in my practice and my behaviors, it looks like I'm really controlling things instead of being joyful. I'm really tight on criticizing myself or criticizing others instead of showing up in love and connection. So I'm valuing criticism over love and connection. So take a look. What do I value more in practice and how I'm acting and how I'm speaking and what I'm doing than I claim to value when I'm listing my wonderful values? So the next thing you can look at is, where am I experiencing some sort of inner conflict where I'm having a feeling of this doesn't work or this can't exist at the same time as that? Where am I experiencing that inner conflict, resistance, suffering? That can point to your hidden values as well. You can also ask about patterns. If you see certain patterns recurring, maybe certain types of arguments with a loved one, or certain types of avoidance or procrastination, those patterns can also suggest a hidden value that hasn't been acknowledged yet, and you want to be able to take a look there. All right, so the last thing I want to point to here is that there's nothing bad or wrong with these being here. I promise you they came for a reason at a time that you needed that type of value. And once you can identify it, it can literally unleash you from what's been holding you back. It can literally get the compass aligned, get your actions aligned, and away you go. And it feels so good when you have compassion for yourself to understand, oh, this is what's happening. This is what's running the show and my behaviors. And that's not aligned with who I am anymore. And oh my gosh, I see why that came into the picture. It came into the picture because I needed it at that stage in my life. And I no longer need that in my life right now. So that's okay. I can start to release this. So go ahead and take a look, have the compassion, explore what's there, and then I invite you to revisit your values and quite literally reflect on whether they're aligned with the life you want to live. Gently, compassionately. If you have not done your values in a while, I highly suggest that you dive into our values creation course. It is not a long endeavor. It's short, it's simple, and it really gets you in focus on what you want to focus on. And it gives you that guide and that compass so that you can align your actions to what you really value. It's a beautiful thing. So go for that. And what I want to leave you with finally is really that peace cannot exist when control is prioritized. Freedom cannot thrive where certainty ends up being the ultimate goal. The hidden values that we hold, they end up shaping our lives that we live. So let's bring those hidden values into the light. Let's see where they came from and allow ourselves to release them and go forward. We want to live that life full of peace, full of freedom, full of love and connection, full of real congruent direction. So let's do it. And this is just one of the steps in order to have the life you really want. All right, I hope this has served you today. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Go ahead and share this to anyone that you think this will serve. Have a wonderful week.